meet anybody that you run into. How in the world do you think anybody's supposed to respect you? If you don't give a heck about the man with the Bible in his hand, just get out the way, let the gentleman do his thing. You're the kind of gentleman that wants everything your way. Take the sheet off your face, boy, it's a brand new day. Respect yourself. Respect yourself. If you don't respect yourself, ain't nobody gonna give a good hoot. No, 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 no. If you're walking around thinking that the world owes you something 'cause you're here, you're going out the world backwards like you did when you first come here. Keep talking about the president won't stop the air pollution. Put your hand on your mouth when you cough, that'll help the solution. And if you cuss around women and you don't even know their name, and you're dumb enough to think that'll make you a big old man, respect yourself. Respect yourself. And if you don't respect yourself, ain't nobody gonna give a big kahoo. No, 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 no.
This is a new day. This is a new day full of sound and light and expectation. This day has been waiting for you. It's been waiting especially for you, to embrace you, to guide you. This day has been waiting with open arms, just for you. This is the day we have been given. Let's not waste it. Come now and let us worship together. Please rise and embody your spirit for our first hymn, 149 in the gray hymnal, 149.
Lift every voice and sing till the air in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our day begun, let us us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with the steady path of the weary steed, come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way where tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the rising past now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Good. Yeah, it's balmy out, right? In comparison. Yeah, good to be with you. A sobering thought that I had. I'd never put this together until this year. 2 days ago, 60 years ago, Malcolm X was assassinated. And also 60 years ago, less than 2 weeks later, Bloody Sunday happened on the March on Selma. I didn't realize until this year that they were weeks from each other. We're going to honor both. So today is a day to honor Malcolm's life and his teaching. And next Sunday, there's going to be an event, and there's information on the back of your order of service on the back page. There's an event at the Tyler History Center next Sunday at 3:30 p.m., marking the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, when people from all over the country marched on Selma, including many of our Unitarian ancestors who were there. I've been asked to speak for about 10 minutes at that event on the history and legacy of James Reeb, the Unitarian minister who was beaten to death on that day, and how that has transformed our understanding of what religion is, which I believe it did, actually. So join us for that. I think it's going to be a really great community event. It's good to be with you all today, too. Today at 12:15 p.m., there's a meeting in the boardroom to plan our event here at the church on queer life in America. There's going to be a wonderful event here. There's going to be some planning around what we're doing. 12:15 p.m. in the boardroom. Jan Grigsby, can you raise your hand? Talk to Jan. She could use all the help you can offer for that event. That would be wonderful. And also next Sunday, we have a chili cook-off. Do you love this? Do you love the intensity of all that this time requires? And then we just have normal Midwest church stuff. Why not? It's lovely and it's perfect. So join us next Sunday. We have a UUYO chili cook-off. Bring some chili. We like a variety, everything from mild to very spicy. It's also going to be an event to benefit the church. So $10 gets you a nice portion of chili. And it's a way to support this place. So join us for that next Sunday after church. I think now would be a good time to invite Sarah Lowry for our chalice lighting.
Good morning. February, as many of you know, I'm sure, is a time for planting seeds. It is not the time for reaping rewards. With this premise firmly pressed into our minds and hearts, the purpose of this chalice lighting is to prepare our mental and spiritual soils for sowing a harvest that we may never taste. A very wise friend of mine recently shared an online insight that incited a fire that hasn't stopped burning since I was set alight by his passionate call for action. Quote, "Ignoring the existence of those with different perspectives only mirrors what's being done to trans and queer communities right now. Erased, dismissed, and legislated out of existence. If we reject that for ourselves, why would we use the same strategy for others? We have to do the hard work of engaging, listening, and challenging, not to compromise our values, but to create space where transformation is possible. It's the same approach laid out in Collaborating with the Enemy. True progress requires stepping outside of echo chambers and into conversations where tension is real. But so is the potential for change. This is not about agreeing with hate. It's about refusing to let fear and misinformation define our communities. Justice isn't just about who we fight against. It is about who we are willing to fight for. I felt a similar incitement when rereading Malcolm X in preparation for today. Specifically this, quote, "The only way we'll get freedom for ourselves is to identify ourselves with every oppressed people in the world." Like a recurring pharmaceutical ad promising hope and health, but issuing warnings for potentially fatal side effects that I can't skip past, I keep hearing these questions on rapid repeat. Who are we willing to fight for? Who are we willing to fight for? And how do we begin to identify ourselves with every oppressed people so we can finally all find our way to freedom? Who are we willing to fight for? And how do we identify with every oppressed people to find our way to freedom? Recently, the pioneers of the new Reimagination and Reconnection reading series have been gathering in Schweitzer Lounge on a couple of cold February nights, huddled around the wall-mounted fire heater, cupping mugs of hot tea, to explore Robin Wall Kimmerer's The Serviceberry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. This group has truly been a gift that keeps on giving. I am grateful for the abundance of thoughtful observations, the reciprocity of heartfelt and often humorous stories, and the generous guidance despite the overwhelming, often paralyzing feelings of frustration, infuriation, and fear, and we find our way back to light and to love. Like many of you, I continue to try and often fail to limit my consumption of things that are bad for me. Sweets, maybe a controversial one, caffeine, cookie-cutter British crime dramas, and perhaps the worst of all, the news. During an inevitable bout of doom scrolling that I have banana peeled into, I've stumbled across varied voices attempting to shout over the unrelenting, polarized political percussion and the pharmaceutical ads that the only way out of this tangled and treacherous time is through reconnection and community. For this reconnection to actually work, it has to be twofold. We have to reconnect to each other, and we have to reconnect with nature. It's like Velcro. You need both sides in order for it to actually stick. When wrapping up the service, Barry, Kimmerer redirects our attention away from the extractive, scarcity-centered economic systems grinding us down and towards a more regenerative, reciprocal, natural system that would lift us up. Perhaps, though, the hardest pill to swallow in this proposed remedy and redirection towards reconnection, especially in a moment like this where the urgency is very real, that hardest pill to swallow is patience. The dismantling and rebuilding of entire economic and cultural ecosystems can't happen overnight. Sorry. Like a natural ecosystem that has been depleted of its life-sustaining elements, regeneration of our economic systems will require time, imagination, determination, and perhaps the element that is most important and notably absent, love. Reestablishing connections with nature and learning from its long-lived lessons reminds us that rebirth, even when it seems impossible, is, in fact, not only possible, but inevitable. Flowers bloom in spring even after the harshest winter. And I hope we are about to see that for ourselves. And flowers bloom because pollinators pick up and deliver gifts of life from plant to create seeds that are handed off to other things with wings, or the wind to continue to spread and share hope and life far and wide. Is it an expression of love in the way we usually think about love? The month of Valentine's Day garnished with chocolates and roses? No, maybe not. But these uninterrupted, life-giving actions, even in extraordinary, seemingly hostile and impossible circumstances, are what allow this thing we call life to continue, including chocolates and roses. All of these small, life-sustaining, life-giving actions, to me, are the most powerful expressions of love. So reconnecting with each other, especially those of us who have been intentionally and repeatedly harmed the most under the current capitalist climate, will help us find freedom. Reconnecting with each other in this way may also help us see that if we identify ourselves with those who have been oppressed and fight for those who have been most harmed, we really are simultaneously fighting for ourselves. As we have seen countless examples lately, the current system was imagined to intentionally and repeatedly harm almost everybody in some way. If we can keep our minds and hearts open to reconnect to that thread of truth that ties us together, we can hold space to reimagine a future that leads us towards light, love, and liberation. These reconnections will not be quick or easy. They will require long-term, deliberate labor. But in the same way, one bee cannot be responsible for pollinating every flower in a field, no one person is responsible for fighting every fight, making every phone call, marching in every march. But if we do our parts, keep tending to our seeds, nurturing our gardens, greeting our neighbors, we might have a chance for a future and for a harvest to be sustained and see the sweet fruits that grew from the seeds that we are caring for today. And, as a reminder, even the most industrious and ambitious bee needs to rest from time to time. Don't forget to rest. I'll close with one last voice who I feel absolutely must be any part of a conversation about liberation, freedom, and love, and justice, and that is bell hooks. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move against domination, against oppression. The moment we choose love, we begin to move towards freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. So today, We light this chalice to honor Malcolm X's life and legacy in the fight for freedom for oppressed peoples. In the spirit of reconnecting to each other and those who have and continue to experience oppression, to choose actions anchored in love and the long path, and to practice patience with ourselves and others, and trust that with love, the fruits of freedom that we plant today will be ready for all of us to enjoy someday.
Now let's greet our neighbor. Maybe talk about a chili cook-off.
So today's story time is, Waiter, There's a Bee in My Bonnet. This is a story about stories and copyright laws by me. You know that feeling when something keeps bugging you, like a persistent bee buzzing around your head? That's how I feel about copyright laws. I guess you could say I have a bee in my bonnet. So kids, this means that you keep talking or thinking about the same thing over and over and over again because you think it is very important. So let me tell you about an interesting shift in how we share stories at church. Before COVID-19, things were simple. We'd gather together, open a picture book, and share its magic with everyone in the room. Publishers considered this fair use, a beautiful thing that allowed us to freely share these stories and beautiful illustrations in person. Then COVID happened. The world moved online, and publishers graciously looked the other way as we all tried to stay connected through screens. But now that we're back together, the rules have changed. No more streaming story time, if it's a book. No more Zoom readings. No more YouTube videos of our favorite picture books. But what if we just ask permission? That seems simple enough, right? No, it's not simple at all. Getting permission to share any book online isn't just difficult, it's nearly impossible. Publishers typically need 22 weeks notice. That's over 5 months. And even then, they might just say no. So, want to know something interesting? Books published before 1923 are called fair game. I'd imagine it's 1920, I don't know, I was thinking maybe it was 1925, I'm not sure. But anyways, they're in what is called the public domain. And just last year, a beloved classic joined their ranks, Millions of Cats. Has anybody ever read that? It's written and illustrated by Wanda Gogg in 1928, and it became public domain in 2024. It's actually the oldest American picture book still in print, and one of the rare picture books to win a Newbery honor. I love reading books and telling stories to the congregation. I think you would all agree, too, that to some extent that you have learned or have grown from the experience. I've seen firsthand how stories transform our congregation, the way eyes light up during readings, the thoughtful discussions that follow, the emails that I get about, hey, where can I find that book? Or, hey, I really like that story. Those moments matter. But don't worry, this isn't the end of our story sharing. I will be working with our congregational leaders and with other religious educators to find creative solutions. We'll find new ways to share meaningful stories that strengthen our faith, challenge our thinking, and help us to grow as a community so that we may continue to transform ourselves, our communities, and the world that we share. After all, that's what storytelling has always been about. Now, I would like for the children to come up with me down here where that microphone is so that we can do the covenant. Anybody want the covenant so they can read the words? Here, come over here, Dashel. Here. Okay, so it is also in your order of service. Ready? Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And that's by James Villa Blake. Okay, now we're going to sing our kids out to their class. That's also in your order of service. Ready?
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Good morning. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. We pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessing of abundance and to support our community in a tangible way. This month, our offering goes to the Minister's Discretionary Fund. This fund supports friends, members, and community members in a variety of ways, including assistance with temporary housing, help with bills, and support for programming that benefits the community. We will now receive the offering that supports the life of our church, the Mahoning Valley, and our wider world.
Let our hearts not be hardened to those living on the margins. There is room at the table for everyone. Too long we have wandered, burdened and undone, but there is room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Let us sing the new world in. This is how it all begins. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. Here and now we can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all, and no gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room at the table for everyone. For everyone. For everyone.
During our silent meditation this morning, I would like to hold the Bergers. Some of you may have heard this, some of you don't know. So Martin Berger is currently at St. Elizabeth's Hospital on Belmont Avenue. He had a fall, and they found blood in his stool. And so he's there right now. In 6409 is his room. I went and saw him recently. He loves visitors. So stop by. He actually really loves it. And he has a bunch of books Louisa brought him. But let's hold him and Louisa and everyone in that family for our meditation.
Our reading today is a collection of quotes from the writings and speeches of Malcolm X. 1. Any time you beg another man to set you free, you will never be free. Freedom is something that you have to do for yourselves. 2. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner unless you eat some of what's on the plate. Being here in America doesn't make you an American. Being born here and America doesn't make you an American. 3, I believe in a religion that believes in freedom. Anytime I have to accept a religion that won't let me fight a battle for my people, I say to hell with that religion. 4, we cannot think of being acceptable to others until we have first proven acceptable to ourselves. 5, I believe that there will ultimately be a clash between the oppressed and those who do the oppressing. I believe that there will be a clash between those who want freedom, justice, and equality for everyone, and those who want to continue the system of exploitation. I believe that there will be that kind of clash, but I don't think it will be based on the color of the skin. 6, the greatest mistake of the movement has been trying to organize a sleeping people around specific goals. You have to wake the people up first, then you'll get action. 7, the media's the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power, because they control the minds of the masses. 8, sometimes I have dared a dream to myself that one day history may even say that my voice, which disturbed the white man's smugness and his arrogance and his complacency, that my voice helped to save America from a grave, possibly even a fatal catastrophe.
I was born by the river in a little town, and just like that river, I've been rolling ever since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know change gonna come. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's out there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. Yes, it will. Well, I go to the movies and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me, don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. There have been times when I thought couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh yes it will. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh yes it will.
I know not everyone may be familiar with Malcolm X here, other than a general sense of the name and perhaps a bit of fear or edginess about what he was about. Not assuming, but wondering. I'm not going to explain much of his biography today, but I can direct you to other resources or past sermons I've given which do that. What I will say is that he broke open the idea about freedom being much more than about not having it as bad as other people. Okay? He was a person influenced by living in the United States and being surrounded by Northerners who thought they were awake and free. Okay? He was surrounded by people who thought they were awake and free, in comparison with those who lived in Jim Crow South. He was surrounded by those who thought themselves free, progressive, enlightened. And his mission became to awaken people from that flimsy dream and awaken them to the nightmare. One of his famous lines is he wasn't aware of any kind of American dream, only an American nightmare. A nightmare most were too complacent and too involved with to wake up from fully. But I sense now things are different. Do you feel it? Change is in the air. And I think more and more, Malcolm is someone who has something to say about this time. A time when people, more than ever, feel like they're living in a nightmare. And though it doesn't feel like it, to Malcolm and to me, it's a sign of hope. Anytime we can awaken from deception, even and especially self-deception, is a hopeful day. Anytime we can awaken to what is happening that we've ignored or put off for so long, though it's hard, is the true beginning of something lasting. I must confess I like Malcolm. I remember having a conversation with a classmate when I was in seminary, and he liked certain people because he agreed with almost all of their viewpoints. He was focused on the content of their words and actions. I've always had a different criteria for liking someone. I like someone who surprises me, and I like people who seem sincere. And I like passionate people, even when that passion is directed, especially, toward freeing the mind and freeing the spirit of people from self-imposed bondage, perpetuated by a culture committed to keeping people predictable and asleep. I'm okay with being shocked if I sense that shock comes from someplace loving and true. And I sense that with Malcolm. I feel the love in his way of life and in his words, even if the content seems contrary to certain ideas about love. He was fierce and at times combative, but I sensed it came from more than ego or self-righteousness. He wanted people to know they were beautiful. He wanted to make clear that people could be free and beautiful, and anything that got in the way of that was worth letting go or destroying. He was fierce about tearing down walls that made us feel less than or separate. And I have immense respect for that. And he did something which other people did during that time, but he brought a different twist to it. He understood the role the mind plays in all of this, how our psychology and habitual behavior keeps us imprisoned in status quo ideas about the way things are, and how that makes people complacent, and it makes people think that what is happening is inevitable and they can do nothing about it. Or if they dare to do something about it, they would have to be almost heroic, virtuous, without blemish, self-sacrificing. He was aware that most of us don't want to do that, or we feel we can't do that. So most people will just opt out and watch from the sidelines of history. But he offered a different way, a courageous but deeply human way. You could be angry. You could welcome the whole of human emotion, and you could still love yourself. And you could love other people. And you could try to make freedom more of a possibility. I love that he said that any religion which tries to limit freedom, to hell with that religion. To hell with it. And over his life, he came to see strangely what Martin had been preaching, that love is the gateway to that freedom. But Malcolm showed us a distinctly American expression of love, a love that uses all of us, not just the parts that we think are appropriate. He understood that a clash was coming to the United States, and it was about much more than the color of our skin. It was about freedom, justice, and equity. It was about coming to terms if we were actually deeply committed to anti-exploitation. And he understood the power of propaganda, of mass media, to make the innocent look guilty and the guilty look innocent. He understood that if you can distract and barrage the mind of a people, guess what? You control the mind of a people. And if you can control the mind of a people, you've already succeeded in creating a dictatorship. Already. You've created a dictatorship of the mind. Okay? And once you have the mind, the body will follow. And people will distract themselves from the pain of that which will cause them to fall more deeply asleep. And he said the greatest mistake of our movement is trying to organize a sleeping people around specific goals. It doesn't work when we are still asleep, still caught up in the same tracks of viewing ourselves through the eyes of commodification. Okay? It can only work when we wake up the people. And I've been really feeling that lately. There is a kind of mass rumbling that is happening, a movement of fear and dread that is traveling underground, threatening to crack the very foundations we stand on. And I've been wondering about the role we as a church might play, not in suppressing or placating that energy, but directing it, allowing for an expression that instead of eating at us, has the potential to free and open us, to allow for a wider range of movement and expression. I think this is possible. I'm finding that if I'm not finding what I value reflected in the culture at large, then maybe it's time to do something about that. And my sense is that doesn't mean insisting on those values in some kind of coercive way. Like, you must value what I value, or you're a bad person, or you're an asleep person. But rather, it's time to wake myself up. And it's time to live what I value and what I find creative and life-giving more fully in my personal and public life, especially if that expression is judged as radical or even banal. To not worry so much about how it's judged or perceived, how we live our values, but to do so wholeheartedly, idiosyncratically, like Malcolm, playfully, unevenly. I remember when I first felt called to ministry, and I had an experience which I've now understood is fairly common. The thought was, I'm not the ideal person to do this thing. I know myself enough to know that there are people out there who are more virtuous, more patient, and in some sense more loving and generous. I felt that then, and over the years that view has been confirmed. Many of the people in this congregation love in ways that I find unimaginable for myself. The extent of care and patience and steadfastness that some of you show me makes me feel like a schlub. And not in a bad way. It gives me hope that there are people like this still in the world. I was talking with someone recently how in the Torah, God is always on the verge of deciding whether to destroy the world and all of humanity. And it usually comes down to one person, one good person, who eventually convinces God, let's give it another day. God says, if this person exists, even just one good person like this in all the milieu we find ourselves in, I'll give humanity one more shot. It takes one. I know pretty much for certain I'm not that one. But I see that one here. I see more than one. And the funny part is, that's why I'm convinced living as a minister was a good choice. I hope if you get the sense that if this guy can do it, or try to do it, or try and fail to do it, what the hell do I have to lose? Nothing. That's what. Nothing. You have nothing to lose, other than ideas you have, which hold yourself back from fully being yourself. It's hard to legislate that experience, though legislation is certainly helpful. It's hard to make the Supreme Court or any branch of government give us the freedom we know in our hearts and souls is rightfully ours. It doesn't work that way. We must embrace it first for ourselves, or try to practice living the kind of freedom we think we need to fight to obtain. We have the opportunity to find and live that freedom today, even in a time of tyranny, maybe even especially. That's the time that needs an expression of freedom. And from that experience in our own small way, we can get the energy to change the systems that make that dream seem impossible for ourselves and others. I'm becoming more convinced that we don't fight to get what is already ours. That's silly. We live what is ours now and inspire others to do the same. And we work to create laws and structures that encourage that possibility rather than hinder it. We don't start from nothing. Malcolm lived through things I can't even imagine. He witnessed his father being killed by white supremacists. He lived as a public figure in fear for the safety of his wife and children. He was seen as part of the hope for the whole black community across the world. A heavy hope I wouldn't wish on any single individual. And he lived through all of that with a mind that knew its own capacity for freedom. A heart that knew it was limitless. A body that knew, even in limitation, you could bow and pray and worship that which truly gave life, rather than took it. He was an embodiment of freedom in his own particular idiosyncratic way. And I think it's true for us that we can live that in our own idiosyncratic, particular way. To do our best. And I do think to do our best is the whole thing. The sincere desire and energy is everything. It's because we don't need to get our freedom. It's already here. Even and especially when others feel it's within their power to take it. You know, that's the oldest trick in the book of bullies and tyranny. It's the oldest trick in the book. The trick is thinking and tricking the people to think that something that you can never lose can be taken from you. And what ends up happening when people believe that someone can take which can never be taken from you is the people forfeit their own capacity because they get tricked into thinking someone took something from them. And then we have to think we have to fight to get it back. How silly. I think there's another way of seeing it. we come back to ourselves, and we find ourselves acceptable before we demand others find us acceptable. We come back to ourselves and love ourselves before we demand that others love us. We come back to ourselves and we free ourselves from ideas that limit us before we demand that others grant us freedom. That is, I think, what Malcolm might say today in so many words. Free your mind before you try to free your country. Free your heart before you try to free the hearts of others. Free your body from images that have been handed to you about who others think you are. Easier said than done, I think. But I think it can be done with practice and intention in a community like this to reinforce that possibility again and again and again. And I'm finding for myself that the process of that is to include all of my honest thoughts and fears, including the ones that I think might limit me in some way. I'm learning I can't skip over those. It doesn't work that way, although for years I wish it could have. I'm learning that my own limitations are not that unusual, and those limitations are actually bridges for compassion for others who are struggling just like me. So even those ideas and messages that seem harmful can be bridges to understanding the heart and mind of other people. We really are connected, not separate. I appreciate that now more than ever. What is happening in my mind and heart, guaranteed, is happening in the mind and heart of other people. Guaranteed. And it's happening in the mind and heart of our country. And when I find a bit of space, a bit of a break, a small opening for something else, I believe that small opening happens for other people. And it creates a small opening in this country. I can't prove any of this. It's just a feeling. I've known a few people who met Malcolm X when he was alive. And I asked them, what was he like? They all told me separately the same thing. They found themselves feeling more acceptable to themselves in his presence. They found themselves feeling more acceptable to themselves in his presence. A self-love they couldn't quite access as strongly came through. It was there all along. Let's teach that. Please pray with me. Spirit of love, what a great Sunday. So grateful for the wonderful music, for Lindsay Sinkovich, for Sarah Lowry, for Tim Raridan and Andy Crabb. Thank you for the beauty of this day and all the beautiful people here. in this beautiful country. All this we pray in gratitude. Amen. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn. I believe this is to the old Irish hymn, but different words. This is my song, 159.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and the skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts until we meet again.
Such a cool picture, right? I love all the colors. As you depart, please remember the one great fact. Say it with me. You are loved and never truly alone.
No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. Here and now we can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone.